Today, we're looking at, well, the ultimate geopolitical plot twist, really.
Absolutely. It's quite something.
You have this figure, right? Someone who spent, what, 13 grueling years
Immersed in the Civil War, commanding rebels.
commanding rebels, operating completely outside any kind of international legitimacy.
And now,
And now he's walking straight into the most influential room in global politics, the Oval Office.
it is November 7th, 2025, and the man making this incredible journey is Ahmed al-Sharaa, Syria's interim president.
Yeah, and this isn't just like a news headline. It's the first official visit ever by a Syrian leader to the U.S. President Donald Trump.
It's the culmination of, well, you almost have to call it the greatest political makeover of our time.
Okay.
A huge moment.
Think about that contradiction, though. I mean, this is a former rebel chief.
Right.
His group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS,
Uh,
it was, until very recently, known for its deep ties to al-Qaeda.
that's the history, yes.
Yet somehow he's negotiated his way from, the shadows of the battlefield right into the heart of diplomatic power.
It's remarkable.
So our mission in this deep dive is really to understand the mechanics. How did this happen? How did Sharaa actually buy his ticket to Washington?
And crucially, what are the monumental stakes? I mean, potentially generations-defining stakes being decided in that meeting today.
Okay, let's unpack this. How did we get here?
Well, it's a phenomenal display of, let's say, strategic and very rapid political evolution.
And rapid.
Definitely. To understand today, you have to look back at what happened right after Bashar al-Assad fell. That was late last year.
Right, Sharaa's forces were the ones who toppled him after that long, brutal 13-year war.
Exactly. And since that moment, Sharaa's entire focus, his entire energy has been on this meticulously managed campaign, basically to shed his former identity.
That phrase gets tossed around a lot, shedding his past identity like an old coat. But what does that actually look like on the ground?
Yeah, good question.
How do you convince, major world powers, their intelligence agencies, that a group with al-Qaeda links has fundamentally changed its core in less than a year?
Well, look, it wasn't necessarily about changing hearts, I think. It was about changing verifiable actions and the messaging.
Okay. Actions like what?
His team set up new governance structures in the areas they controlled. They started distancing themselves, rhetorically but also operationally, from the really radical elements. They moved pretty aggressively against other rival jihadist groups too, and they framed themselves not as rebels anymore, but as like the only viable force that could stop Syria collapsing into total anarchy.
So that created a narrative.
Exactly, a narrative where Washington and, importantly, Riyadh could start to see Sharaa not as some ideologue, but, as you mentioned earlier, a pragmatic fixer.
The guy who holds the keys to stability, essentially.
He's the only one right now who seems capable of delivering that, yes.
But isn't there a massive potential double standard here? I mean, are we really supposed to leave this as more than just sort of geopolitical window dressing?
Well, that's the core tension, isn't it?
Has the U.S. just decided stability is more important than where the leader providing it comes from, ideologically speaking?
That is precisely the calculation driving this whole situation, I think. The assessment in Washington and other capitals is that Sharaa is pliable enough.
Pliable. Interesting word.
Pliable enough to potentially stabilize Syria and maybe the wider region for decades. Nick Harris, the analyst, he put it perfectly.
Good, he said.
He said, this White House meeting is basically a giant billboard declaring Sharaa not a terrorist anymore.
Wow.
Now, whether that's genuinely true internally, that's almost secondary. The key fact is the U.S. is willing to treat him as if it's true.
And that gives him the ultimate diplomatic cover he needs.
The validation, exactly.
And just look how quickly this happened. I mean, this wasn't a slow thaw. This was a sprint.
An absolute sprint. The first really high-level contact we know about was back in May. Sharaa met Trump in Riyadh.
Right. And Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was sort of overseeing that, wasn't he?
Yes, MBS was basically the broker. The Saudis were understandably desperate for stability on their northern border. They essentially made the introduction.
Okay, but the real game changer, the thing that unlocked everything else, that had to be July.
Oh, unquestionably. July was massive. That's when Washington officially pulled the terrorism designation for HTS.
And that single act, that changed everything.
It was the absolute prerequisite for what we're seeing today. That designation was the legal wall stopping Syria from getting any Western or international money.
Right. No access to the World Bank, the IMF, reconstruction funds.
None of it. Once that label was gone, the path was technically open.
And with the money potentially on the table. The diplomatic stuff just accelerated like crazy.
It did. September, you see Sharaa standing at the podium at the UN General Assembly.
First Syrian president to do that in decades. Huge symbolic moment.
Massive. But the final piece, the last bit of pavement for today's visit, that only happened yesterday.
Tell us about that, the UN Security Council vote.
Yeah. The U.S. pushed it through. The Security Council voted to scrap the sanctions against Syria.
Have the justification.
Critically, the vote was based on a U.S.-drafted resolution, and it praised Sharaa's administration for, quote, cracking down on internal terrorism and narcotics trafficking.
So they're being presented as part of the solution now.
Pretty much. U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz explicitly said the vote was proof of their hard work.
The historian Sami Mubaid, he pointed out this isn't just politics, it's a massive historical shift.
He's absolutely right.
First White House visit for a sitting Syrian president in modern history. It just cements this fundamental change. From pariah state for decades.
To potential partner in, what, a matter of months? It's dizzying.
And that legitimacy, that's the currency Sharaa needed, right, to actually start governing.
That's the key. Now that he has the key, he can try and unlock the safe, so to speak.
Okay, that brings us perfectly to Section 2. And this is where the real leverage comes into play, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Sharaa isn't in D.C. for, like, historical footnotes or just a photo op. He's arrived with a very critical to-do list.
A list focused squarely on trying to resurrect a nation that's just been completely gutted by war.
And the number one item.
Money. Lots and lots of money. We are not talking small change here.
The reconstruction task is just enormous.
It's described as Herculean. The World Bank, just last October, they put a number on it.
How much?
A staggering $216 billion.
Wow. $216 billion.
And you have to understand that figure isn't just bricks and mortar. It's not just roads and bridges. It's the cost of trying to restart an entire economy, an entire society.
That number, $216 billion, it gives the U.S. incredible leverage, doesn't it?
Immense leverage.
Sharaa basically needs President Trump's personal, that green light.
He does.
To unlock the international financial systems needed to even begin accessing those kinds of billions.
Exactly. And if he gets that nod, that funding, well, it cements his grip on power back home.
And he gets to be the one who launches Syria's comeback story.
That's the idea. The money is essentially the leash, ensuring his future cooperation.
So the terror designation removal in July, that wasn't the end goal.
No, that was just the mechanism to start the conversation about this funding.
The U.S. holds the keys to Syria, fully re-entering the global financial world.
And Sharaa knows his own political survival depends on delivering tangible improvements. People are exhausted.
Okay, so beyond the money, what's the other big pillar on today's agenda?
Security. Specifically, the ongoing global fight against the Islamic State, or IS.
Right, IS is still a threat, even if diminished.
Very much so. And the talks today are centered on Syria formally joining the U.S.-led global coalition against IS.
Formally joining, that's a big step.
It is. U.S. envoy Tom Barrack even suggested this meeting could end with a signed pact.
Wow. So this isn't just symbolic talk.
Not at all. This aligns Syria's national security goals directly with Washington's. It signals a huge shift away from, former alliances or neutrality.
And joining the coalition, that must imply a deeper U.S. re-engagement, maybe even changes to the U.S. military footprint inside Syria.
It certainly raises those questions. We know most American troops have been based up in the northeast, the Kurdish areas.
Working with the SDF, the Syrian Democratic Forces.
Right. And the SDF themselves are currently negotiating how they fold into Syria's new national army. That's another complex piece.
But you mentioned something else the U.S. is eyeing, near Damascus.
Yes, the Massa military airport.
Why Massa? What's the significance there? It's being presented as a humanitarian aid hub, right?
That's the official line, the diplomatic language. But strategically, Massa is crucial.
Why? Location.
Exactly. It's close to Damascus, yes, but more importantly, it's seen as a potential critical monitoring post.
Monitoring what?
It gives the U.S. a much better vantage point on everything happening on the western and southern fronts. And specifically, it's about keeping a very close eye on the incredibly sensitive dynamic between Syria and Israel. Okay. Which brings us neatly to the biggest diplomatic tightrope Sharaa has to walk here.
The Israel dimension.
Yes. Integrating Israel into his new, supposedly legitimate regime.
Look, this is absolutely central to President Trump's broader vision for the Middle East.
The Abraham Accords.
Exactly. The push is to eventually pull Syria into that fold, that network of Arab-Israeli normalization deals that were such a focus before.
So for Sharaa to get the money and the security cooperation he desperately needs.
He has to address Israeli security concerns. It's part of the package.
How delicate is the situation between Syria and Israel right now?
Extraordinarily delicate. I mean,
Yeah.
technically they're still at war.
Right.
Yet direct negotiations actually started almost immediately after Assad fell. Sharaa had to show some goodwill right away.
So what's the strategy been? It's been described as moderation with muscle. He needs to look like a strong leader who controls his borders, but also one who's willing to make significant security compromises.
Like what?
Well, back in September, he publicly floated the idea of a security pact. The goal was to cool down border tensions, reduce flare-ups. That's a major concession.
But he stopped short of full diplomatic relations.
Oh, absolutely. He's been very careful about that. That seems to be a line he feels he can't cross domestically. Not yet, anyway.
But the reality on the ground, who really holds the power in that specific relationship?
Well, the actions speak volumes. Since December, Israeli forces have effectively controlled the UN buffer zone along the border.
And the airstrikes inside Syria.
Critically, yes. Israel has launched hundreds of airstrikes inside Syrian territory without any military retaliation from Damascus. None.
And that lack of retaliation, that's deliberate.
It has to be seen as part of Sharaa's new strategy. He's clearly prioritizing stability and his cooperation with Washington over immediate military responses.
He's basically proving he's a reliable partner by just absorbing these actions quietly.
That seems to be the calculation, yes. It shows he can control impulses and stick to the bigger picture.
So let's talk about the cost. If we look at the price of this dramatic stability, this rapid legitimacy, what is Sharaa fundamentally signing away in that Oval Office today?
Well, ultimately, he's signing away a significant degree of national sovereignty.
That's a heavy price.
It is. Nick Harris, again, he warns that Trump's overall blueprint for Syria, the quiet part, essentially bakes in significant Israeli influence over key parts of Syrian territory for years to come.
So that's the trade-off.
That's the ultimate geopolitical concession. Trading strategic control, regional independence for the immediate, desperately needed injection of billions of dollars and international legitimacy.
It's the transactional reality.
That's the transactional reality of this deep dive, precisely.
So, thinking about all this, what does it mean for you, listening to this unfold? The stakes in this one single meeting are just monumental.
They really are. This is a genuine pivot point for a Middle East that has been tearing itself apart for over a decade.
Yeah.
Today really determines if stability, reconstruction, and, a seat back at the international table can be bought. And the price is these massive, long-term geopolitical concessions on security and regional influence.
The bargain is laid out pretty clearly.
It is, and the world is watching to see if Sharaa accepts the full terms and conditions, as it were.
Sharaa's journey. I mean, from being this battle-hardened figure leading a group with al-Qaeda ties to becoming this global diplomat walking into the White House. It is, as we said at the start, completely unprecedented.
Truly is.
So the final provocative question for you to think about isn't just about the money flowing or alliances forming. That's the surface level.
Right.
The deeper, maybe more resonant question is this. Can a nation that's essentially built on rebel foundations, can it truly find lasting internal peace and stability?
While at the same time,
While simultaneously absorbing major, sustained influence from its longtime neighbor, its military adversary.
that's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it?
This ex-rebel has absolutely stolen the diplomatic show. But the long-term price of his star performance, that's only just beginning to be calculated.